I'm not going to tell you who this lady is, and nor am I going to tell you which service it was that she attended. But this event took place over 10 years ago. This lady sat in the front row of the chapel, and it was clear to me that she was slightly uncomfortable. I wasn't quite sure what that reason was, but maybe it was because she perhaps hadn't been to church for a long time or even been to church ever before. I started the service in my usual friendly way by saying good morning and welcoming everybody to the Tower of London and to the Chapel Royal of St. Peter ad Vincula. And I gave out the page number, page 43. That was my first mistake. I hadn't said which book it came from, page 43. As far as we were concerned, we went down on our knees to make our confession to God. As far as she was concerned, she was singing while shepherds watched their flocks by night, which was slightly unusual as it was the middle of summer. Maybe she was thinking to herself it was a vegetarian service and we were all down on our knees saying sorry to God for all the lambs and sheep that we had been eating. As the service progressed and went by, we come to the point where we take the collection, and I stood before the congregation and said, we now sing hymn number whatever it was, and the offertory collection will be taken. At this point, the yeoman warder, Beefeater, comes up to the front and with his bag to collect the money, stuck this in front of her. This was mistake number 2. She was completely caught out by this and grabbed her handbag, which dropped on the floor. Getting her purse out and time moving on, my suspicion she was then trying to decide what to give God. As the service wasn't going too well, I suspect she thought he was probably only worth 5p and not worth £5. At the end of the service, we sing the concluding hymn, and it's followed by the blessing. At this point, the congregation sit down, and I pronounce the blessing. She remained standing, at which point she looked round at the congregation and saw them all kneeling or sitting, and simply flopped, that's about the best way to describe it, into her chair, with the words quietly muttered to herself, "Bother, bother, bother, bother." Now, I'm not a great lip reader, but after 30-odd years in the army and having gone into barrack rooms where I have visited soldiers, I've heard them lip reading various things as I walked in, so I knew she was saying something like, bother, bother, bother. But also I noticed at this particular point, as she finished the final word, that her whole presence changed. Somehow she became serene and peaceful. Somehow at this point all the shackles of formality had dropped off her. And it was at this moment I realized that she was sitting there peacefully, worshipping and praying. Now, I'm not for a single moment, please don't misunderstand this, trying to say to you that I don't like formal worship and the way we do things here. Far from it. There's a wonderful place for it. I love the music and the liturgy and the old Book of Common Prayer, which we use every week. It's an absolute place for this. But if we're all honest, all of us, every now and again, we struggle with our worship. Those holy and sacred moments to each of us come in different ways and in different parts of the service. I know that for some people, the confession, which we say at the beginning of the service, is for some people the most important, holy and special part of the service. For others, I know that receiving Holy Communion, the sacraments, the sacred moment, putting out their hands to receive the bread and the wine, which for many people enduring this lockdown has meant they haven't received that, is something they're desperately missing and can't wait to return to. Receiving the sacraments, that's the holy and special moment. For others, it's the prayer, the blessing, God's blessing on them, giving them the strength to go out into the coming week. These holy, sacred, special and important moments. For the lady in the red dress, the holy, sacred and special moment was that moment when she just relaxed before God and worship for her became authentic. In the words of that she muttered at that particular point. I wonder how many of us, you like me, have had moments like her, when the real authentic moment of worship, of prayer, of receiving the sacraments, has simply been that moment of sitting before God and saying, bother, 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 bother.
Hello everyone. I hope that you're doing well and that you're managing to find some positives in this long period of estrangement from one another. I know that I've been missing the Tower community terribly, and I've been missing my colleagues on a Sunday morning and singing in general, but lockdown has thrown up some coping mechanisms for us all, I hope, and one of them for me has been being reunited with the piano that I learned to sing around and that I learned to play the piano-ish on. And so I've taken some comfort in spending a little bit of the time that I've now got relaxing at this piano, noodling around like I used to do when I was a teenager and having a little sing. So from Cardiff, I thought that these agitated times might call for a Welsh lullaby. So with love and peace and solidarity to you all, this is Suor Gan.
Amari